Welcome back to the Cato Solicitors video series, and today we're going to be looking at, or continuing our look at common contractual problems that businesses face. So if you're not interested in the common contractual problems businesses face, you should turn off and go and do something else, because this is not going to be that interesting for you. However, if you are interested in incorporating your company's terms and conditions when you place an order and so on, keep listening. So very briefly, how is a contract made? Well, there are several pillars which I'm going to go through very quickly. The first pillar is offer and acceptance. So one party has to make an offer and the other has to accept it. There has to be consideration, which is normally money passing. There has to be an intention to create legal relations, and I'm just going to stop there with those three, and we're just going to look at a little illustration which probably all of you have had at some time in your life. You've bought, say, a second-hand car. So how do you buy a second-hand car? You go and meet the seller, or if you're the seller, you meet the buyer. There's a discussion between you where you talk about the car. Is the mileage correct? Tyres look a bit bald. I won't give you that much money, and so on. And eventually, maybe, you come to an agreement. And somebody will say, well, give me £800 for it, or I'll give you £800 for it. And the other person will accept. And it's at that point of acceptance, if there's an intention to be bound, then a contract is made in common law. Now, for more complicated contracts, there also has to be certainty of terms. So all the terms of the contract have to be, all the material, important terms of the contract have to be agreed between the parties. Otherwise, obviously, there is no contract. Now, that's offer and acceptance, consideration and certainty of terms and intention. Now, the battle of the forms arises when all of this goes wrong. So, say in your office, one of your managers or your purchaser orders, I don't know, 5 computers or 5 laptops, and they do a deal at £1,000 each. And your manager, perhaps, let's say, does this deal on the telephone and says, this is what I want, yes, I can sell that to you, and your manager says, well, I'll send you our standard terms. So the manager sends out the company's standard terms to the computer sales shop, and in return, they say, thank you very much for your terms, and these are the terms on which we sell, and they send back their terms. If there is then a dispute about this contract, it's sometimes difficult to know which parties' terms will prevail. Now, the first rule of thumb, and it is only a rule of thumb, is what's known colloquially in the trade as the last shot doctrine, where the last party's terms to move across are the ones that are adopted. But it all depends on the facts and the circumstances, and there may be other documents passing between the parties which indicate that the last shot doctrine isn't appropriate, and there may be difficulties in these cases, the cases of the battle of the forms, in incorporating anyone's standard terms and conditions, and the court just has to sit down and work out what the contract was. Or indeed, it may be that the situation is so confused with so many emails passing backwards and forwards and arguments about whether the standard terms which were referred to were in fact incorporated at all, that there is no contract, and the party who is losing has to rely not on the law of contract but on another legal doctrine, for example, restitution. Now, this is all grist to the mill for lawyers, and it's how we make our living. If you want to avoid us, then you must make sure that at the point of forming this contract, there is certainty that your terms and conditions are the ones that are accepted by both sides, or if you're accepting the other's terms and conditions, that they're satisfactory for you. It's something that people pay very little attention to, but the more money you're spending, and I would say 5,000 is definitely the limit for most people. You know, if you're spending or selling £5,000 or more, you really need to be certain about the terms and conditions upon which that sale is being made. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the lawyer's office, and that's going to cost your company a lot of money. So the way to do that is to make sure your terms and conditions are incorporated. And the way to do that is to make the surefire way to make sure your terms and conditions are incorporated is to get the other side to sign on the dotted line saying, I agree to these terms and conditions. If you've ever had a photocopying machine delivered to your office, you can be sure that the photocopying company gets you to sign before delivery takes place. So that's the battle of the forms and how to avoid it.